Here we go, Steve Rifkind.
What's up, Vlad?
Welcome to Vlad TV for the first time, even though
is it really the first time?
I think this is the first time I've actually interviewed you, yeah.
Oh, that you actually interviewed me?
Yeah. Yeah, and when we go back years and years, and for those that don't know, Steve was actually the first executive that saw the potential of Vlad TV back in like 2009, I think.
Yeah.
And actually brought us in-house at SRC, allowed us to run Vlad TV out of the Universal building, legitimized us in a way.
No question.
You know, gave us a huge look. And, you know, the fact that I actually got to work with you guys and see how a major record label ran was something that was really a game changer for me. I definitely appreciate everything you've done, man. You know, and you know, let's not forget that you know, you're one of the greatest music executives, you know, really in the history of music.
Well, I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
Well earned.
Thank you.
So let's start in the beginning. You grew up in a musical family, and your father was heavily influenced, heavily working with music.
Yes.
Jules Rifkind.
Correct.
Some of the people he's worked with was like James Brown, Elvis.
He brought Elvis to Vegas, but you know, my dad had a really cool R&B label, and it was James Brown, Joe Simon, Fatback Band, and Millie Jackson.
Yeah.
Like Fatback Band was the first one to ever put out a hip hop record.
Right.
And they say Millie Jackson, even though she was a singer, they said she was the first like female MC.
Yeah.
So he had 4 artists, and all they did was they sold gold and, you know, mostly gold every time they put out a record.
Okay, and you grew up in this type of environment.
Correct.
Like, what was it like being a kid and seeing this type of thing around you?
You know, it was funny. You know, seeing that as a kid, all my, like, if I went to a friend's house and we were my friend's father's or mother's car, you know, they would listen to the pop station. You know, it would be like PLJ, or, you know, Z100 wasn't even around at the time.
Yeah. And
you go into my car, or my dad's car, you know, or my mom's car, you know, we were listening to WBLS, which was Frankie Crockett's station, you know, so, and it was just R&B music.
Right, it was the black station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, and then in the house, even though we lived in Long Island, you know, the whole world, you know, came through. So, like, to me, it was just like, it was normal, I guess.
Like, who were some of the celebrities, like some of the music celebrities that you met as a kid?
I mean, James Brown.
You met James Brown as a kid?
Yeah.
What was that like?
Let's say I wasn't older than 10, but I think I was like more like 7 or 8. Mm-hmm. And James was performing at the Apollo, and Michael and the Jackson 5 were opening up for James at the Apollo.
Wow.
And I wanted to see the Jackson 5. They just did the Ed Sullivan show, you know, and it was so. But I was anywhere between 8 and 10.
Right.
You know, meeting James Brown for the first time.
Okay. Did you actually get to meet like Michael Jackson during that time, or?
I mean, Michael Jackson wasn't Michael. He was Michael Jackson, but you know,
the Jackson 5.
Yeah. But he was still like, you know, it was like the beginning of the career.
Okay. So you're growing up in this type of family. Did your father want you to do music, or that was something that you took upon yourself?
You know, that's a great question. When my father got, I don't know. You know, I think, you know, I didn't know how to read or write till I was 14 years old.
Yeah, because you were dyslexic.
I was majorly dyslexic. Yeah. My grandfather, who was in the nightclub business, called me down to Florida and said, you know, 2 things are going to happen to you. You're going to end up dead or in jail. He goes, why don't you go on the road? You know, so I just turned 18.
Okay.
So he goes, I'll speak to your father. So they sent me on the road, you know, and that, I was supposed to be gone for like 2-3 weeks, and it ended up being like 2-3 years.
Okay, and who were you on the road with?
Shit, I was going myself. That's how I really put the street team together.
Okay.
Because I was going to radio stations, visiting people. I'm 18 years old, so I'm visiting people who are like in their 30s to 40s to 50s, you know, our age now. I'm like, I don't want to fucking hang out with you guys. So I would end up going back to the colleges. So the 3 things that I wanted to talk about wasn't even about money to me. It was about music, sports, and pussy. Mm-hmm. And that's the 3 things that I think every, you know, 18-year-old, you know, has in common.
So before then, there was no such thing as a street team.
There was no, I didn't even know what a street team was. I mean, I just kept my relationship with them. So when I finally put the street team together, the only people that I knew, I called them.
Okay.
You know, and then some other people who were at college radio, you know. So I went on the road, say, I was 18 by the time I was done. So from 80 to 83. 84, I met in between that 80 and 83, I met a guy by the name of Hiram Hicks, who was based out of Philadelphia. Hiram had a relationship with Michael Bivins from New Edition.
Right. Or BBD, I guess.
No, it was New Edition.
There's still New Edition then. Okay.
Still New Edition. And they were getting rid of their management at the time. And Hiram says, we should manage him. I said, what the fuck do we know about managing a group that sells at Madison Square Garden?
Yeah.
I said, let me bring my father and uncle into it. So I brought my father and uncle into it. And that's when I moved out to LA to help them make the Any Heartbreak album. And it was produced by Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis.
Right. Did you see the special?
Yeah, they cut me out.
They cut you out.
Mike, I love you anyway, but they still cut me out. So that's how I ended up in LA. So,
Okay, so you're working with New Edition at the height of New Edition. So Bobby Brown was gone at this point.
Bobby was gone. We just put Johnny in the group.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and they're working with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis
and I was
right after, you know, the Janet Jackson album.
Yeah, I think they already did probably 2 Janet albums.
Yeah, exactly. So, were you involved in the making of the New Edition Heartbreak album?
I mean, the only involvement. I mean, who the fuck was I to say something to Jimmy and Terry? But you know, I went to the studio a few times.
So you were there in the sessions.
Not every session, you know.
Okay, but were you there for the what was the big song? Can You Stand the Rain?
I don't think so.
Okay, the way they depicted that
Yeah.
in the TV special was so dope. So what was it like working with New Edition? Like how was your interaction with them and so forth? Because you were technically their manager, right?
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, I was like, you know, I felt like I was in the big leagues, you know. Which I guess I
were in the
was.
big leagues, yeah.
You know, it was just me and Mike spoke all the time, you know, like, you know, and just, you know, he was a businessman. So it was like, he would say, we got to do this, we got to do this, we got to do this, you know. And then I would bring it back to New York and tell, you know, my uncle and my father, like, all right, these are things that, you know, we got to do.
Okay.
But, you know, at that time, MCA was such a great record company, and Gerald Busby, who was head of black music at the time, he passed away. He's like one of my mentors, without him really mentoring me, just from the outside looking in. You know, they did a lot. You know, they were really hands-on. You know, they helped bring this Coke deal into place, you know, and like Gerald really understood branding and, you know, just branding and just the importance of a brand with a group.
Okay. So the Any Heartbreak album comes out and it's a monster. Mm-hmm. It's New Edition's biggest project. Are you still with the group after that album comes out?
The album comes out and then we left like a year and a half later, right before they went on tour.
Why?
It was a little political. You know, Irving Azoff, who was chairman of MCA, he used to have a management company. And it was, you know, and it wasn't like where he fucked us. You know, it wasn't anything like that. It was just the contract was up, and you know, they figured, you know, they were smart. They was like, if Irving could help us, he'll give, you know, somehow. So
sure.
I mean, there was no.
Okay, but I mean, after Any Heartbreak, didn't they break up? And then
the group
Belle Biv DeVoe
Belle Biv
formed?
DeVoe came, yeah, and then, you know, Hiram had that.
Okay, so you leave New Edition, and then what happens?
I put the street team together.
Okay.
I put the street team together, and I hook up with a company called Delicious Vinyl.
Right, from LA.
From LA.
Right. Delicious Vinyl had who at that point? Tone Loc?
They didn't even have Tone Loc. I mean, they were just starting.
Okay.
But it was Tone Loc and Young MC, and another artist by the name of Def Jeff. And
right.
They had a girls group called Body and Soul, which Dee Barnes was in the group.
I remember reading an article about you where you said, like, your mentality in the street team was that, like, for example, in every high school or in every college, there's always that one cool kid. And if you attach yourself to the cool kid, people will follow what the cool kid is doing. And so you built the street team around that type of concept? Is that right or no?
Half right. I mean, it's not like, oh, let me find the coolest kid. I mean, you had to understand music, first. So, like when I first started doing it, they were like just a bunch of college DJs. Mm-hmm. But as we started going more into depth of really what it was, like I would camp out in the city for 4 or 5 days. So and then I would see all right, you could tell that this kid had something, So it's like I'm looking for stars, and I wasn't looking for record stars. I was looking for executive stars.
Okay.
The way Gabi, for example,
mm-hmm.
right? Gabi, started off as my street team guy, one of my street team guys in New York, So it was when I left Loud, and I started SRC, he was my first choice.
Right. He became president.
He became president.
Yeah. There you go. Okay, so let's go back to the street team part. So you start SRC as a street team, and how does that relate to Delicious Vinyl exactly?
So I came in. These were just a bunch of producers, Mike Ross, Matt Dyke, and Mike's brother Rick. They didn't really know the music business. Mm-hmm. So my Rolodex at that time, was building up. So they needed help promoting their records. So
you knew how to promote records.
I knew how to promote records.
So then they signed Tone Loc.
Tone Loc was already signed. They just didn't put out the records yet.
Okay, and of course his huge hit was Wild Thing.
Wild Thing, and then Funky Cole Medina.
Funky Cole Medina. That was the second single.
Yep.
And then Young MC had Bust a Move.
Yep.
And
I forget the second.
He had another one. Yeah.
Ladies or something like that.
Right. So you were just basically, you had a contract with Delicious Vinyl?
Yeah, they paid me like a consultant fee, and I did what I had to do to, and all my people were in place. Like a good friend of mine was the head writer for Arsenio Hall. Mm-hmm. It would have been the first record to go #1. And I had it all planned out where Tone was going to perform at Arsenio Hall. And on Wednesdays is the day that the charts would come out and saying, all right, first rapper to ever have a #1 pop record. Island pulled the plug.
Because what, Island was distributing?
Yeah, Island was
Vinyl?
distributing at the time.
Okay.
So they were selling so many records. They said, why do we need to go #1? And they pulled the plug at radio. But the fucking album I think still sold 3 million albums. Right.
So now you're involved with a #1 album.
Yeah.
And a #1 single. And I remember when these songs came out. These weren't like hip hop songs. Hip hop was still.
I tell you. So the video was like a $500 video.
Right. It was black and white.
Yeah. So Rick Krim, who's now president of Sony Music Publishing, ATV, was in the talent department at MTV, and they were just starting Yo MTV.
Right.
I'm like, Rick, I'm sending you something. Put it in your new show. So he goes, this video is the best video I've ever seen. And I'm looking, I'm like, you got to be kidding me, right? He goes, no. He goes, not only are we putting it in Yo MTV, we're putting it in like their buzz bin, whatever their, like the highest thing. And then the fucking thing just took off.
Yeah. Okay. So now SRC has something under their belt.
Correct.
They promoted multiple #1 songs because Bust a Move went to #1 too, right?
Yep.
So what came next?
What came next is RCA called me to be in charge, as a consultant, to be in charge of all their video promotion.
Okay. Video promotion.
Yeah.
Was there such a thing back then, or?
No.
Okay. So this is like a whole new thing. Okay. So you became an employee of RCA?
No.
No.
Never.
You were a contractor.
Yeah.
With your company.
And I had to deal with MTV. BET was based in DC.
Yeah.
Video Jukebox, in Miami, and all the local and regional shows.
Okay. Like, is a lot of money being made by SRC at this point, or still?
I thought it was. I'm at that time. I'm probably doing around $50 a month.
$50,000 a month.
Yeah.
Which this was early 90s or late 80s?
Late 80s, 87, 88.
Yeah. Which is like 100, 150 today. pretty
so,
much.
Yeah, so 50 a month was like, what, 600 a year, you know?
Yeah.
I thought I was just fucking, I had a staff of 3. I had my assistant, and Rich wasn't even with me yet at the time.
Yeah.
It was our third friend, Gary, who did the video promotion. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to run the board. So not only did we do video promotion and the street team, I'm going to start doing back college radio and mix show. And I brought in a kid by the name of Faye Duvernay.
Okay.
And we went from 50 a month to, you know, like $1.5 million, like this.
A month?
No, not a month. You know,
A year.
for the year.
Yeah.
And every record company, I was on retainer with pretty much every record company.
Okay. Everyone wanted SRC
Yeah.
to do their magic with their singles
Exactly.
and their albums.
You know,
Like how? So you had accounts with every, because I think you mentioned you were basically doing promotion, like rap promotion for everyone except for Death Row.
I want to say, literally from 1987 to 1999, the only 2 labels, maybe, was Death Row. We didn't do anything, but we did a shitload for Interscope. Puff, we didn't. Puff, I would just help as a friend, but didn't do anything. And once in a blue moon, Def Jam. But everything else, from Warner to Atlantic to Elektra to EMI to Capitol, we were on retainer.
Okay. So at what point did Loud Records come together?
91.
Okay.
In late 91, early 92.
So why did you start Loud Records?
I didn't even want to start it.
Why? Because you're making too much money off the promotion?
I mean, not that I was making too much money off the promotion. I mean, I was 29, 30 years old, you know, and now I'm doing like $1.5 million a year, you know, so I was like, why do I need the fucking pressure, right? So this attorney calls me, was my dad's attorney, who I knew. He goes, I can get you a label. I'm like, I'm cool, I don't need a label. You know, so my father calls me. I'm staying at Rich's house.
Rich Isaacson.
Rich Isaacson, right? I'm staying at my father calls me. Don't forget, there are no cell phones then or anything else like that. He goes, why don't you come to the house? I'm like, oh, fuck, what did I do now? Or what did he do, right? So he explains to me the difference between being in the service business and having an asset business.
Mm.
He goes, in the service business, which was SRC, you're only as good as your last contract.
Right. When your contract ends, your money stops.
Yeah. So in the asset business, you're sleeping and making money
Right.
by owning assets. So I got it. I'm like, all right, Dad, I'm going to do this label.
Okay.
So I go back into the city. I call the lawyer. I'm like, all right, get me a deal.
And who was the deal with?
First, it was supposed to be with Irving Azoff at Giant, and that's why we named it Loud.
Loud, Giant.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Loud, you know, stood for Listeners of Urban Dialect.
Wait, stands for what?
Listeners of Urban Dialect.
Listeners of Urban Dialect. I never knew this.
So Irving couldn't do it for whatever reason, and we ended up at BMG.
Okay.
At Zoo Entertainment, which was a new label that they just started.
Okay. And I heard you had a $3,000 investment.
Not even $3,000, yeah, but it's like a $3,000 investment.
Okay. And who put up that $3,000?
BMG.
I mean, regardless of what area you're talking about, $3,000 is not enough money to start a company. So why? I mean, why?
But they knew, but I had the marketing company. So
Okay.
they knew I already had an infrastructure.
Okay, so this was just okay. We got to give you something, so here's the $3,000. And now you start Loud Records.
I start Loud.
But you still keep the SRC marketing company.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I was living. I mean,
Right.
Rich
Isaacson
leaves his law firm in New York to move out to LA.
Okay, because he believes in what you're doing.
What?
He believes in what you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay, and who else is part of this team?
It was me, Rich, Fade, who came with the Loud name, and some interns.
That's it.
And the street team.
So you have Rich Isaacson,
Fade,
and then a couple interns.
couple of interns.
So a 3-person company with.
Yep. And then I started paying the interns. So we had somebody doing video promotion. We had somebody doing the street team. We had somebody doing college radio. We had somebody doing mix show radio.
Okay.
And I still handled MTV and the big boys.
The first artist you signed,
Is Twister.
Twister, and then the Alcoholics came afterwards?
No, a group by the name of Madcap came afterwards.
Oh, right. Okay, so Twister originally was Tongue Twister.
Correct.
And now, did he have the Guinness Book of World Records for the fastest
rap,
whatever?
rapper ever. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we did it on Yo MTV.
Okay, so before we get into that, Chicago, there was no rappers from Chicago back then. Why did you decide to go to this new city? Because back then it was really East Coast, West Coast. The South, I think, had like Ghetto Boys and it was kind of starting off, but really it was mostly East Coast.
It's not that I went to Chicago. I mean, Eric the Wiz, who was like Twister's manager, he was a DJ at GCI in Chicago. He had a conversation with Fade. Fade plays me the record. I'm like, wow, this could be our first artist. Let's fly him out.
Okay.
So I flew him out, signed him, and then that was it. I mean, I just thought it was like, this is a cool-ass record. He's a cool-ass artist. He's young. I wasn't thinking East Coast, West Coast. I was just thinking,
This is a dope artist.
this kid could spit.
Yeah. So did he have just one song at this point?
He had 2 songs.
He had 2 songs. You sign him. Now, the record comes out.
Record comes out, and it starts doing pretty well.
It does. Okay. Pretty well meaning what? Gold?
No, not gold. Some radios, the single comes out, not the album.
Yeah.
The single comes out, the single starts to sell, getting some really cool radio stations, on it. And then my deal with BMG is if I sell up to 50,000, once I go to 50,000, they got to kick in.
Okay.
So we get to 50,000 in a matter of an hour,
Okay.
that quick, just because of my network. So me and Rich go up to meet with the chairman of the company and says, all right, here's a budget, this is what we need. He goes, they're shutting me down. I blew $20 million in less than a year. So we're like, what the fuck, right? So, and we have to catch a flight to Atlanta for Jack the Rapper.
Okay.
And we go to dinner. We spend like our last $5 to our name, just on the company.
Yeah.
And I meet a guy by the name of Ron Urban, who at the time was the COO of RCA Records.
Uh-huh.
And me and Ron, there's a lawyer by the name of Joel Katz, where Ron was at. My father was there, so I was just going to say hello to people. And Ron was there, and then me and Ron closed the deal like at 4 o'clock in the morning. So we were out of business for a day.
So Loud Records moves to RCA.
RCA.
With Twister.
With Twister.
And Madcap?
And Madcap.
Has Madcap come out yet or no?
No.
Okay. So the Twister album comes out under RCA?
Yeah.
And how does it do?
We do around 100,000.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Okay. Madcap comes out?
Does around 100,000.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, because I remember, I think I bought the Madcap album. Mm-hmm. I think it was cool, but it wasn't groundbreaking.
Exactly.
Okay. So you now have 2 albums selling about 100,000, which is nominal success. Back then,
they made money because our budgets were so small.
For nothing. Yeah, exactly. So then what happens next?
Fade brings me the Alcoholics.
Right. I absolutely loved their first 2 albums.
Me too.
Loved it. Like it was like, okay, so did King T was pushing him beforehand, right?
They were part of King T's. Yeah.
Yeah, part of the Liquid Crew.
Yep.
Okay. So did King T bring you the Alcoholics?
No.
No.
They produced one of the records on Madcap's album. So Fade heard him. So Fade brought him. I don't drink, never drank. And the group was called the Alcoholics, and there was a liquor store right across the street from the office, and I bought like 5 cases of beer. They came up, and we signed them on the spot.
Okay, and you heard, did they have an album at this point or no?
They had 4 songs.
Okay.
But they had Make Room, which...
Love that song.
Fucking, to this day, it was just...
It's a West Coast classic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the only song that I truly remember. Make Room, and we signed them, and between all this, I'm in New York for my 31st birthday. E Swift's in New York, and I've been trying to get in touch with this guy by the name of Prince Rakeem.
RZA.
Yeah.
Okay, so but before we get to that, you sign the Alcoholics. The album comes out. I definitely bought this album. This album was in heavy rotation. I remember. I was going to UC Berkeley at the time.
Oh, you were?
Yeah. And
Okay.
this was like a big record. Like all the house parties you go to, this was a big record out there. So the album comes out. How's it do?
You do around 250, 300,000.
Okay, so this is like you're raising the bar at this point. Now, is Twister still on your label?
No.
Why?
He wanted it off. He started working with Do or Die.
Huh. Okay, out of Chicago.
Yeah.
But why did he want off?
Just, it didn't, he felt it didn't work, even though we made some money. I mean, there was some mistakes made, so it's like, it was our first record out of it, so.
Okay, but did he have a multi-album deal?
Yeah, but we let him out.
Okay, you weren't trying to keep someone on there who didn't want to be on there. Okay, so you just, right, because I remember reading like how Twister for a while really wasn't doing too well. He was still riding the bus and stuff like that. It was like, he was still a struggling artist during the very beginning stages. So you guys let him off. The Alcoholics comes out and goes halfway to gold, or
A little bit more.
3/5 of the way to gold. And the single does well also.
Single does amazing.
Yeah. So, and you guys have them for a multi-album deal. You guys
Correct.
went on to release how many albums with
I think
them?
like 4 or 5.
So, you guys now have a hit record, a hit album with the Alcoholics, and you're trying to get a hold of the RZA. Why?
So
Because the RZA had already come out with something, like "We Love You, Raheem" or something
that
like
was
that.
on Tommy Boy.
Yeah.
Jizza was on Cold Chillin'.
Right, as the genius.
As the genius. So they put Wu-Tang together. So Jason Staten was our street team guy in Michigan. He sent it to Trevor. Trevor says, you got to find this group. Or you got to find this guy, Prince Rakeem. So here's the number, call him. And he doesn't have an answering machine.
Well, but what from Wu-Tang did you hear at this point?
Protect your neck.
Okay, so that was already out.
Yeah,
They put that out independently.
exactly.
Okay, and you heard it, and did you know right away?
I didn't know, but everybody else knew. So, cut to, I'm trying to track him down. And I'm in New York for my 31st birthday, and I'm in the RCA building, and I'm with D Swift, and somebody says, Prince Rakeem is here.
So how does the Wu-Tang thing come together? Because you were actually there.
I was there, yeah. I'm having a meeting with Steve in New York in the office, and RZA comes in. This is all unscheduled. It's just me and Steve. We're going over some stuff. RZA comes in and he plays "Protect Your Neck." You're already seeing them moving in the streets in New York, right? So they come there, and then one by one, the dudes just start coming in the room, just rapping the song, and me and Steve is looking at each other like, "What the fuck?" And they just leave. I'm like, "What the fuck just happened?" And Steve is like, "I don't know. Like, what the fuck? What should I do?" I was like, "Man, don't let them get out this building without signing them. I'll tell you that." Like,
So you saw it right away.
oh, that fast.
Somebody comes running into the office. To this day, says, "That's that shit." I've never seen the guy ever again. So I don't know if I don't know if they set me up, or if somebody really like. And I never saw the guy ever again.
Okay.
So I call RCA. I call Rich. Rich was. I'm like, we have to sign this group immediately. Rich flies in, and we get the deal done in less than 4 days.
Okay, so when the deal gets done, it's for Wu-Tang as a collective.
Correct.
Does everyone actually sign, or is it just RZA
RZA signs as Wu-Tang Productions, and the rest of the guys had to sign
individually?
individually. It was a Jewish holiday. So I go to Long Island, and Rich had to go, I think, to his sister's house, who I think she lived in the city. So he was still in the city. So he's leaving the office, and I think Jizza had to sign on top of a taxi cab. Like, I mean, it was funny.
I mean, when you first met Wu-Tang Clan, I mean, they never really cleaned up, but back then, I'm sure they're really, really grimy. Like,
I mean, they were just hungry, man. I mean,
Yeah.
They were.
And was it all the members of the group that they, or because I remember hearing Wu-Tang is really like 100 deep, and and so forth. Like people who claim Wu-Tang is
People
a
could
lot of
claim
people.
Wu-Tang because there were 9 guys in the group.
Yeah.
But there were 9 guys in the group.
9 guys in the group.
Capo
Okay.
was away at the time, so it was everybody.
He was in
but
jail at the
Capo.
time, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So all 9 members of Wu-Tang signed to Loud Records. How many songs did they have done at this point?
I only heard Protect Your Neck and Tears.
Okay. And that's it.
That's it. So then around like 3 weeks later, I hear the METHOD record.
Okay. Now, what's special about this deal was that every person in the group was able to go and get individual solo deals.
Yes.
Was that something that was negotiated right there in the beginning?
Yep.
Okay.
And that came from New Edition.
Aha.
So I always thought that the group will always be bigger than the solo artist. And I had to jumpstart Loud. So I sold 100,000 with Twista, 100,000 with Madcap, 200 to 300 with the Licks. I didn't have that home run. I'm getting on base, but
Yeah. No home runs yet.
no, I'm not even crossing home plate, not even a home run. You know, I just wanted to put points on the board.
Yeah.
So I was like, let him have it as long as we have first right of refusal.
Okay, so basically, when you say that, that means that if Method Man gets an offer for $1 million, you guys could match that.
We could
and
match
then, and then you guys could get them. But if
Exactly.
you couldn't match it, then they would go
It
somewhere
goes.
else. Okay. So you signed a deal. Do you remember how big the deal was back then?
For the first
For
album?
Wu-Tang?
I think it was like $50,000.
Nothing. For how many albums?
They delivered, what, 5 albums?
Was it a 5-album deal just
It
from
was a
jump?
4 or 5 album. I mean,
Wow. And both RZA and GZA had bad experiences at other labels.
exactly.
Right, because RZA had the "We Love You, Rakim," or it wasn't really what we know as Wu-Tang is today. So they signed this deal, and no one else was interested at the time.
Everybody wanted the group as a whole. They weren't letting them do the solo deals.
Oh, that was what differentiated Loud from everyone else. You guys would let them do the solo deals, so they signed with Loud. Okay, so you give them $50,000. Was that the budget to record the first album? So nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
And it sounds like it was a $50,000 album, like it was real dirty
I mean,
sounding.
it was raw. I mean,
Yeah.
it was just straight raw.
I remember first hearing Wu-Tang, before I heard Protect Your Neck, I remember I was working as a producer, working with some local groups in Berkeley and Oakland, and someone walked in and said, yo, you got to hear this. It was METHOD, man. And it was like, we all sat around, me and a bunch of other rappers, and we were like, what the fuck is this? This just sounded so different. And the sample to the gruffness in the voice, you know what I mean? And then we heard Protect Your Neck afterwards. We liked it too, but it was Method Man was the song that really got us. So you put out that single, did it just take off right away?
It took a second, but then Hot 97 was a dance station at the time. And they started doing Make It or Break It.
Mm-hmm.
And we went for 9 days in a row.
Okay. People were fucking with it.
People were fucking with it.
What was that like at the beginning of Protect Your Neck, where it's like someone's calling into a radio station. It's like, oh, I want to hear that Wu-Tang again
yeah,
and again. What's that from?
That was live. That was somebody. It had to be one of the college radio stations. in New
Yeah,
York.
that's what it sounded. It
Yeah.
sounded like some local type shit. And they put that in the beginning of the song.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't understand that part, but okay. So the song starts to pick up.
Song starts to go.
Is it Protect Your Neck starts to pick up or Method Man?
Method Man.
Method Man. Aha. Okay.
So I'm at a party for LaFace Records at some club. And I remember talking to Steve Stout. And the METH2 record comes on. And it's the first time in my career that the whole club just goes straight to the dance floor. And I was like, whoa, and Stout was at RCA too. So it was like, he's like, you got one. I'm like, I know I got one, but it's like, I really got one,
Yeah.
So it was mind-boggling. And then I remember calling Rich. Rich was in LA. I said, Wu-Tang is going to be a fucking monster. He goes, why do you say that? So I tried to explain. I said, I'm committing to this thing with Clark Kent for New Music Seminar, which was back in the day,
Yeah.
A really cool record convention.
Yeah.
So they performed at the New Music Seminar, and they made history there too.
Yeah. So then the album comes out, Enter the 36 Chambers. How well does it do? Initially,
The first week, 27,000.
not that much. But then what ends up happening?
I mean, at the end of the day, we sold 3 million records on the first album. Kept them on the road. We dropped Cream. And the rest is history.
Cream was the big breakout single?
That was.
Okay. Because it obviously costs more money to clear the samples and everything else like
Yeah.
that. Like, what was the whole budget of the whole thing?
Of clearing the sample?
Yeah. I mean,
I don't even remember.
okay, but it wasn't a huge amount.
No.
Okay. So you guys go and put out Into the 36 Chambers. Does extremely well. What happens next at Loud Records?
Mobb Deep.
Mobb Deep. Now, Mobb Deep was an interesting story also in terms of how they came around. Because you never even, did you even hear like any of their stuff before you signed them?
Yeah. I heard this record called Patty Shop. I heard this Patty Shop record.
Okay.
And Matty C and Scott Free came aboard as my A&R guys now.
Right. And Matty C and Scott Free were doing Unsigned Hype.
Matty
at the
was doing
Source.
Matty
Matty
was
was
doing
doing
Unsigned Hype.
Right. Which back then,
Was the Bible.
right. If you were an Unsigned Hype in the Source at that time, it guaranteed you a major label deal.
Exactly.
100%.
100%.
I mean, like Biggie, Eminem,
Everybody.
Common, Mobb Deep, like you said, like they all went through Unsigned Hype. Unfortunately, there's nothing like this anymore in hip hop.
No.
They bring you Mobb Deep. Did what was the video where they're wearing the Hennessy shirts?
Shook One's Part 2.
Shook One's Part 2. Did you hear that record at that point?
I heard Shook One's Part 1.
Okay. I don't know if I heard that one.
That was the original. Shook One's Part 2 was a remix.
Okay. So Mobb Deep came, and did you instantly get it?
I got the record, but I got them. To me, there was something about them that they just had. They had an it factor to me that I was just like,
Yeah. So you signed Mobb Deep. Do you remember how much the deal was for?
not a lot.
Not a lot. Because they're coming off a project that didn't do all that well, so.
And I didn't renegotiate yet with RCA either for my budget.
Aha. Okay. I remember when Shook One's Part 2 came out, they had the Hennessy shirts on.
And they spelled it wrong.
Oh, they spelled it wrong?
Yeah.
On purpose or on
I
accident?
think on purpose.
So there wouldn't be any copyright or whatever. And I remember being on the West Coast. I remember everyone was like, yo, these dudes, the Hennessy shirts on, is on some other shit. Like, stab you, what do you say? Bust you in the face, stab your brain with your nose bone. It was like Prodigy back then was like, yo, who is this dude?
Exactly.
So when that single comes out, did it explode?
Yep. It took a minute. We came back from the holidays and the record was on. The record was out of here.
Okay. The album comes out.
Album comes out. I think we do like 50, 60,000 first week. And I remember, and then it stayed that way. The record wasn't really cutting in half. I remember getting a phone call from a big trade magazine, and they were saying, "What are you doing that's keeping the record like?"
Yeah.
And I was just,
It was quality music.
I mean, it was quality music, but we were attacking the streets.
The street team was still rolling. Mm-hmm. Now, I had heard so many crazy stories about Wu-Tang. Like what was some of the craziest shit that was happening with Wu-Tang during this time?
With me?
No, not with you, but just them being on the road. Because,
The only thing that I truly got involved in at that time, by that time, the other labels started coming, but they had to do a show in San Francisco, and the cops came and just harassed everybody, like bad. Mm-hmm. And so my head was just helping them deal with that. And You God's son got shot at the time. and I wanted to get him back to New York as quick as possible so he could be with his son.
Yeah. So the Mobb Deep album comes out, does well. At what point does Wu-Tang start to do the solo deals? So it was pretty close after 36 Chambers.
Meth, if I might have the dates wrong a little bit, but if I remember correctly, Mobb Deep came out in April.
Yeah.
Method Man came out November. Method Man came out November before the April. So if Mobb came in 95, Meth came out November 94, October 94.
Right. At that time, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but Method Man was the star of Wu-Tang.
He had the big record. But,
That's what I'm saying.
But Cream, you know, Meth was the most commercial.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, he did the chorus of Cream.
Yeah, but
So-
Raekwon, out of all the solo records, the first round, we sold the most.
Okay, well, so here's my question. So people started doing solo deals. Method Man does a deal with Def Jam. How come you guys didn't get Method Man?
They spent a lot of money.
So Def Jam just cut a huge check. Okay.
So I'll give you. So Meth was signed to Def Jam. Jizza was signed to Geffen.
Okay.
Dirty was signed to Elektra.
Yeah.
RZA got his label deal through Sony and Epic, and he kept Ghost
He kept Ghost.
and Kappa.
Yeah, and then
we had
Raekwon.
Raekwon was with us.
Okay. I heard at one point you had to throw a chair at somebody for not coming up with the money for Raekwon.
Yeah. Not only Raekwon, but also for the Wu-Tang second album.
Okay.
So I got arrested that night.
You got arrested because what? Because they wouldn't cut you the check that you wanted?
It wasn't for me. It was for Raekwon and Wu-Tang.
Okay. And you threw a chair at what, the lawyer?
Yeah.
Okay, and you got arrested. Why? So you guys only got Raekwon. Mm-hmm. Why? And because why? Everyone was just offering deals through the roof?
No, we could have matched the RZA deal, but RZA had a plan, and he wanted it to stay on Geffen.
Why?
It was his plan. He wanted to spread it out, which would have been great. Don't forget, Geffen was really a rock label.
Okay.
So his strategy was, right, if we get to learn this side of the business from Geffen, you know, it worked out perfection, because the truth of the matter is, we consulted every label.
Oh, so you were making money on the promotion side,
Yeah.
basically? Okay. I remember, did Method Man's first album do all that well? Or?
Yeah, it did really well. He did 120,000 the first week out.
Okay. ODB did well.
ODB did 105.
Right. That Brooklyn Zoo was on
Yeah.
that first album. Jizza did good.
Jizza I think just nailed that 100.
Yeah.
And then
Labels was on that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then we did 130. for
On
Cuban.
Raekwon.
Yeah,
The Purple Tape.
correct.
Which most people consider to be the best Wu-Tang solo project of all time.
Agreed.
So why did Raekwon decide to go with you guys when all his bandmates were going with other places?
Because he knew what I was going to do for him.
So the Raekwon album comes out and it does well. RZA did all the production pretty much.
RZA did dope, yeah.
And RZA's doing the production for everybody.
Yeah.
That Wu-Tang sound. Does that album eventually go platinum?
Yeah, I think we did 2 million.
2 million. And everyone else is doing well. Okay, so now you got the Wu-Tang, you got Mobb Deep. Mobb Deep's album eventually what, goes gold or platinum or
It goes platinum at the end of the day.
platinum?
Ray does too.
Ray does multi-platinum. What happens next?
The Alcoholics came with another record.
Okay. Does well?
Does its 200,000 to 300,000, nothing more, nothing less.
Great album, by the way.
Yeah,
That was
next level.
yeah, next level. Yeah, dope song.
And then we start setting up. Oh, then we had a Flex album, the Funk Flex 60 Minutes of Funk.
Right, that was the first DJ album.
Yeah, and that goes gold out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Then we start gearing up for Wu-Tang 2, Wu-Tang Forever.
Wu-Tang Forever.
And the consulting business or the Stephen Rifkind company is blowing the fuck up.
Okay.
We move offices we went from like a small little office to where we had our own floor.
Okay. And I remember I interviewed this artist named Akala from the UK. And what he told me was that, the UK always followed American hip hop. But he said Wu-Tang's second album was the one that really took it over the top.
That album debuted pretty much #1 in every country around the world.
Yeah. He said that everyone he knew, all the white kids, all the preppy kids, the middle class, he said everyone bumped that album religiously.
This is when I knew it was on the first album still. The liquor store that I bought all the beers for the alcoholics,
Right.
now starts serving food. And I was going there to get a sandwich, and I'm with one of my promotion guys and one of my right hand, the guy named Mojo Nicosia, and we see a white kid with hair down to his ass pretty much, with headphones, and like on a Walkman, not even a Discman, a Walkman, singing Wu-Tang Clan Ain't Nothing to Fuck With. And we gave each other a high five and said, we're out of here. So cut to the second album, which was a double album.
Yeah.
Wu-Tang Forever. I mean, we line up this Rage Against the Machine tour, and the rest is history. I go and renegotiate my deal with BMG, and I really get my first big check in life.
Which was how much?
A lot.
A lot. Millions. Yeah. And the Wu-Tang logo becomes the most iconic. Would you say it was the most iconic music logo, period? I mean, because you got the Rolling Stones logo, you got a few.
I mean, it's up to, it's top 5.
Top 5. And definitely in hip hop,
Yeah.
nothing touches it.
And then the Loud logo, just like, people start calling me for all these fucking things. I'm getting married at the time, and I'm like, I don't want to be in the clothing business, and then, we just start making some t-shirts, and, people are coming in from Japan and Asia, fucking buying t-shirts, $10,000, $15,000 at a pop. Then we do a Nike deal with these Wu-Tang Dunks, where we only made like 50 of them. If you go on eBay now or whatever, they're selling for $20,000.
Yeah. When does 3 6 Mafia come in the picture?
When I sell to Sony.
Okay. So we'll get to that part in a bit. So you renegotiate with RCA, get a huge check. Get a bigger office, more staff, everything else like that. Wu-Tang's second album. How many albums did it sell?
I think we did 8 million.
8 million. Is it really 4 million, but it's a double album, so it's 8? Which is still a massive number. 8 million, so you're talking about $120 million gets generated off that one album. Okay, so then the Sony deal comes in. So does 3 6 Mafia come before or after Sony?
The reason why I sold to Sony was because of 3 6 Mafia. So Master P's blowing up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is he doing different that he's selling records like this? It wasn't, to me, it wasn't about the quality. It was just how he's doing it. So I get on a tour bus with like 3 or 4 people, and I do the whole South.
Okay.
And everybody kept on talking about this 3 6 Mafia thing.
From Memphis?
And I knew I was selling to Sony, but nobody else knew.
Okay.
And then when Tommy said to me, who do you want to be with, Columbia or Epic? I said, I want Relativity.
Okay.
And we'll turn the whole thing around. And that's how 3 6 Mafia came into place.
So you guys signed 3 6 Mafia?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know DJ Paul, like I've interviewed him a bunch of times. I guess they kept all their publishing, which was like
they're rich.
the best deal ever.
They're really rich.
Yeah, because if they had gotten rid of the publishing like most artists were doing, it would have been a whole different situation. Yeah, and DJ Paul is doing great these days, even with no hit records recently. Okay, so you signed 3 6 Mafia. Was that Tear the Club Up? Was that the first album?
Yeah.
I remember seeing commercials for it.
Yeah.
How well does that album do?
Gold.
And then you sell to Sony. So you sell your entire label, Loud Records, to Sony. Can you say how much?
I don't want to say how much.
Tens of millions? Hundreds of millions?
Not hundreds, but it's up there.
It's up there. So you're talking about high 7 digits. No, wait, high 8 digits. Why say so? Was it just the amount of money they were offering you was so ridiculous you just couldn't?
I wanted to play with the big boys. Sony was giving me the opportunity to be the third major in the Sony system.
Aha. And the other two were
Columbia and Epic.
aha. Okay. So
We went from a staff of 30 people to 400 people
Okay.
in a day.
but then what happens next? Because it doesn't quite work out the way you would
The
hoped.
shoe doesn't fit.
The shoe doesn't fit. Meaning what?
It just wasn't a fit. You know, I was used to still doing my things my way. I had to do quarterly numbers, this numbers, that numbers. The only good thing about it was, you know, I had an unlimited expense account and the plane. You know, so
You had a plane?
the Sony plane.
How long were you at Sony before you just said
3 years.
3 years? And then what? Your contract was up at that point?
Yep.
Who stayed? So, but they didn't keep Loud around.
No, they just
It
got
just got absorbed
Yeah.
into Sony. So 3-6 Mafia stayed at Sony.
Everybody stayed at Sony.
So Wu-Tang, Mobb
Mobb
Deep,
Deep,
I guess Exhibit
Yep.
was also part of that situation.
Little Flip.
Lil Flip. Oh, that was Loud.
Yeah.
Ah, right. I forgot about that.
He was the last artist I signed to Loud.
Okay, and that album went, what, gold, platinum?
Platinum.
Platinum. Now, I heard at one point you had the chance to sign Eminem. Who brought him?
Shane Mooney.
Okay. So, did you meet up with him and everything?
No, I didn't meet. So the thing was, M was an underground rapper.
Yeah, from Detroit.
So-
I remember there's a website called Sandbox Automatic. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
It was like a website that sold like underground 12-inch vinyls or something like that. And from that website, I bought the Slim Shady EP because everyone was talking about it at the time. And I remember listening to it like, this guy's incredible. Like, this was before Dre found him. And I remember like, this is going to be the biggest thing ever. And then Dre eventually found him and it became the biggest thing ever. So it was brought to you.
But none of those records were on it. They were just like underground records, not even really hooks on the record.
The Slim Shady EP had
Not the
hooks?
Slim Shady. Not the Slim
Oh, this was
Shady.
before the Slim Shady
Yeah.
EP. Ah, okay. This was like what? What was the name of that first album he had?
I don't even remember.
Eternal or something. It was like, yeah.
So I was like, the kid could spit, and he's, you know, but it's like, now, you know, I think I'm playing with the big boys. You know, I'm thinking I need a radio record. You know,
Radio Records. Infinite was his first.
I don't-
version. Yeah. Okay. So you passed on Eminem. I heard they brought Jay-Z to you.
Jay-Z, I could have burned the building. I wanted Jay-Z. They wouldn't let me sign Jay-Z.
So who
That's
brought you?
that's one of the reasons why Dame brought me Jay-Z.
So
I've
Dame
known-
Dash brought you Jay-Z.
Yeah,
Was this before Reasonable Doubt?
during Reasonable Doubt.
Oh, Reasonable Doubt was already out.
No, it was coming out.
Oh, so Clark Kent and all them were already working on Reasonable Doubt. You heard the records, and you thought,
I gotta have it.
you gotta have it.
RCA wouldn't let me have it.
But that came out independently, right?
It came out, yeah, but then it went to that, you know, went to Priority, and then Leon Russell got the second album.
Right, exactly. But that first album was
Independent. Yeah.
and with the distribution deal. But you wanted that first album.
Yep.
How much were they asking?
It wasn't the money.
Really?
It was I had too much power up there, and they said, if he's going crazy over this, God forbid, you know, I was a terror. So it was like they were trying to just control me.
So then you started SRC Records. Was there artists associated with SRC?
When I shopped the deal,
No, when you actually got the deal with Universal?
no.
Nobody. It
I was
was
shopping
just-
this one artist. Actually, there were two. This artist named Granddaddy South, who I brought with me from
Right,
Loud.
yeah.
He had a record called "Fuck the Law."
Yeah, from Florida, right?
Yeah, Orlando.
Yeah.
And then this kid out of Detroit called Ricochet.
Okay, him I'm not familiar with.
No, he was a quick hit and gone.
Okay. So you sign, so you get the deal at Universal. Right, and this is where you and I eventually meet. At what point does Akon come around?
Right away.
Right away. This is Divine brought him to you?
Kenny Burns introduced me to Divine.
Okay. He brings you Akon. Did you get it right away or
I
not
got it
really?
right away.
Really?
I got it right away so bad that we sign him, the year's over, we come back from holiday, and Universal's having their like first of the year meetings. What are the priorities for the year? So I say I found something that would be the biggest artist of my career. They said bigger than Wu-Tang. I said bigger than Wu-Tang. And they all laughed in my face.
Right.
So I said, fuck you. I walk out the door. This is, you know, as the meeting is going on. I grabbed Gabi, and his wife was pregnant with their first child at the time. I said, you go this way. I'm going to go this way. And as soon as Nat goes into labor, I'll get you a plane, wherever you are. You go home, you have 72 hours, and we're back on the road. He took Akon, I took Akon's brother, Boo. There was no video. There was nothing.
Right. Locked Up was the first single.
Locked Up. And Boo, we said was Akon, and Akon was Akon. So nobody knew what Akon looked like yet. So
because they kind of look alike.
So we just so we just went on the road.
Wait, so Boo was...
I made believe Boo was Akon.
So Boo was performing Locked Up?
Yeah, for these radio shows. And then
was he actually singing or just lip-syncing?
Lip-syncing.
Yo, this is crazy. I've never heard this before. So from what I heard, and I think maybe you even told me this, was that Akon was on the road for 1.5 years until Locked Up picked up.
A little less, but yeah.
Long time.
He grinded. It was like a rap record. It's like you know.
Right, and that was the thing that you were known for, is that if you believed in something, you would keep pushing it even though other people didn't get it.
I mean, they questioned, like, they questioned my ego. So it was like, fuck you, I'm out. And I didn't ask them for a fucking penny. And me and God did what we had to do.
So you were spending your own money pretty much?
Yeah.
Locked Up picks up.
And the rest is history.
The album goes,
The first album, I think, does 3 million.
3 million.
And we're on a decline now, too.
Right, because people aren't buying albums.
Yeah.
Okay. So Akon's first album does 3 million. His second album, that was with Smack That?
Smack
with
That,
Eminem?
I Wanna Fuck You, Don't Matter.
Does
Mama Africa.
millions?
I want to say 7.
7 million. Okay, so at this point, Akon is through the roof.
He's so through the roof. You know, Clive Davis has these pre-Grammy party. You know,
Yeah.
We had the front table.
You're at the front table. Okay. Now, at one point, you meet Scooter Braun.
Yep.
And you actually offer Scooter Braun your job?
Yeah.
You want Scooter Braun to run SRC. Why?
I meet him in Atlanta, and he just blew me away.
In terms of what?
His smartness, like, you know, just like
He got it.
he got it, and he reminded me of a young me.
Okay. And he had Asher Roth.
Asher Roth, but he didn't even know. When I first met him, he wasn't even pitching Asher Roth.
He had nobody.
He had nobody. I was like, I think he was just done working for Jermaine.
Jermaine Dupri, right.
So I bring him, you know, and I'm calling him every day. I'm like, I want you to be president. You know, well, Gabi was president. You know, just run this fucking company and let me do what I do. You have carte blanche to do whatever the fuck you want to do. He calls me up. He goes, I got an artist for you. I just wanted him in New York. So I forgot that I flew him up. So he brings that. I'm like running. You remember what the bathroom was like?
Yeah.
I'm going to take a piss, and I'm like, what are you doing here? He goes, you flew me here. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. But I'm like, all right, meet me in the office, right? I go, but I'm with him. I'm like, who's that? He goes, this is the reason why you flew me here. Like, I forgot. You know, I just wanted Scooter to come to New York so I could try and close him to run the company.
Okay.
And it was Asher. You know.
So Asher Roth signs to SRC.
Yeah.
I Love College comes out. It does
3 million singles.
3 million singles. The album comes out. Does
300,000. Does decent.
Does decent. And then then Scooter Braun
becomes
signs
Justin
Bieber. I remember being at SRC and he's like, yo, can you post this video of Justin Bieber? And I'm like, this guy can't sing. And he's like, I disagree with you, but whatever. And I'm like, okay, I'll post anyways because we're all part of the same team. I didn't see it. Justin Bieber becomes
Justin Bieber. And Scooter becomes Scooter.
Did you have a chance to sign Justin Bieber?
I don't think so.
Okay, because Usher was involved at this point, and
I think it was Usher, and it was a pop thing, and just, you know, it would have been a fucking.
It wasn't a good match.
Yeah.
Right, because SRC had Melanie Fiona.
Chantel. Well, I had Pop Records. You know, Chantel sold a shitload of singles.
Singles, yeah.
You know, and then Akon had #1 pop records. Joe, we had Lean Back, my first #1 pop record.
So, you're at SRC. Melanie Fiona's doing Pretty good.
More than pretty good.
More than pretty good?
Yes.
I mean, did her album do really well?
Her album did 400,000.
400,000. Okay. And at that point,
That's a shitload of record.
Chantel's selling a lot of singles. Akon's through the roof. But Akon's third album doesn't come out.
It comes out. The fourth album doesn't come out.
Okay, the fourth album. Yeah, the fourth album doesn't come out. And I remember we're all waiting for the fourth album. We're waiting.
Yeah, I spent $500,000. We did a presentation for all the Universal executives around the world to hear the record.
But it never comes out.
Never comes out. And then management changes, not artist management, Universal management changes. And
right, because Doug Morris goes to Sony, and
Lucien comes.
And then the president of Sony comes to Universal.
No, president of Lucien Grange, who was head of international for Universal, comes to the States.
And he heads up Universal.
And they tried to lock me up for 3 years, and I was just newly divorced, so I did the deal, knowing I should have probably went with Doug.
You were actually going to go to Sony with Doug?
Yeah, I wanted to. And then, they bring in a whole bunch of new people, and I decide to sell the company.
So you sell SRC to Universal. For a lot?
Not a lot, but
a nice chunk.
A nice chunk.
Yeah, and at that point, Vlad TV is still.
You're still at Universal.
SRC. I'm still at Universal, but with SRC shutting down, I have to go get my own office space. We amicably part ways, and the rest is history. Do you regret anything?
I regret one thing.
What's that?
I started Cornerstone Promotions with Rob Stone.
I had no idea. You did that, okay.
So Rob and Rich were fighting, and me and Rich are childhood best friends.
Yeah.
I thought both of them were going to make up just because of me, and they're cool. It wasn't like fuck you. And I should have jumped in earlier. That was my ego, and that was a tremendous mistake.
But when you look at the legacy, Wu-Tang Clan, Mobb Deep, 3 6 Mafia, Akon, the Alcoholics, David Banner, right? Melanie Fiona. So, and then when you talk about the family tree, Scooter Braun, which is Justin Bieber, and who he manages Kanye now, Vlad TV,
even Lady Gaga through Akon.
Lady Gaga was through Akon. Vlad TV got its, was already starting, but really established itself at SRC. Gabi went on to manage French Montana. Rich Isaacson.
Rich is managing one of the biggest artists in the world.
Right, which is? Mika, right, the pop artist. It's quite a legacy. It's quite a legacy. You could definitely, and this is something you started out of your own head.
Exactly.
Very impressive. And now your new project is?
Is Wave. It's a live stream app that we're just going to focus on hip hop music and some dance music.
Okay. And you want to talk about what that is?
Not yet. I want it, part 2. Let this thing launch.
Yeah.
I'll give you the exclusive. I signed Pun.
Okay. So, did you know Fat Joe at the time?
No. Fat Joe calls me with a guy by the name of Mickey Benson. I was in Chicago with Quincy Jones.
Okay.
And he goes, I need to see you. I got this artist I think will be great for you. So I take this meeting, and I just fell in love with Joe. Pun wasn't there at the time. And he plays me this freestyle. I was like, all right, this is cool. I said, bring Pun up tomorrow, because like I said, I got to go back to LA. Bring Pun up tomorrow if you can, and I want to do something. He goes, don't bullshit me. I'm like, I'm not bullshitting.
Right, because Fat Joe was already on what, Relativity or something?
He was on Relativity.
And he had a moderate success like Flo Joe and the stuff like that, yeah.
So this is where Maddie comes in. The meeting is at 11 o'clock, because I remember I used to take like a 3 o'clock flight so I could be home and say goodnight to my son. And Maddie's in my office. Me and Maddie shared an office, but he was never in the office.
Okay.
So I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, aren't you seeing Joe and Pun? I'm like, yeah. I said, you're in for this? And that's when I knew Pun was done. So Joe and Pun walk in, and I just say, who's your lawyer? You got a deal. Joe thinks I'm full of shit.
Now, have you heard any records at this point?
I heard one little freestyle. That's it. But Matty showed up on time. That's how much I trusted Matty.
Okay.
And Matty never, I had a royalty check for Matty, which he never picked up. So he was a purist to a T.
Yeah.
So, and then Free walks in. So it was like Matty and Free walk in, and I'm like, this is crazy. Joe goes, you better not be bullshitting me. I'm not bullshitting you. Call Tim. Tim was Wu-Tang's lawyer, and we'll get this done now.
Okay. Do you remember how big that deal was?
It was $250.
Okay, so it was a nice chunk.
Yeah.
Okay. And was it through Fat Joe?
Through Terror Squad, yeah.
Through Terror Squad. Okay. So Big Pun doesn't audition for you or nothing? Because, I've been in the office with you. I've seen people audition and everything else like that, but you didn't even bother to do that. Matty C co-signed it, and you were right there with him.
Yeah.
Who had Matty C signed it up at this point?
He was involved with the...
Wu-Tang?
Not Wu-Tang. Mobb.
Mobb Deep.
And Dead Prez.
Okay. So you signed Big Pun. When do you start hearing the actual records?
A few months later.
So you're not even tripping. You trust the process. When you first heard the Pun records, what did you think?
The first record I heard was You Ain't a Killer.
Yeah, that was the first single. That was like
that was a white label.
Mixtapes.
Yeah, that was just a street record.
Yeah, you ain't a killer. You just learned how to walk. Yeah, which was cool.
It was a good record.
Yeah,
and did its purpose. So we came with that, did what it was supposed to do. Nothing higher, nothing less. Did what it exactly was supposed to do.
Yeah.
Then we come with I'm Not a Player, a sample by the OJs, My Darling,
Right.
Darling Baby.
Mm-hmm.
The record, we're getting a little radio play. Joe calls me with Matty. He says, we have a remix for I'm Not, and they play it to me over the phone. And I'm like, when is he going? And Punch singing the hook.
The remix for
Still Not a Player. For I'm Not a Player. For Still Not a Player. I said, you got to shoot a video for this. When are you finishing the record? And we got to send the record to radio ASAP. It's the first radio record I really ever had. So this was all done.
Right, yeah, because Wu-Tang, Mobb Deep, these were not radio artists.
No.
Yeah.
So within 48 hours, the record's done. We shoot this fucking video, and the record is gone.
And Big Pun becomes the first Latino platinum artist.
Rapper, yeah.
Solo, because I think like Cypress Hill went platinum, right?
Yeah.
But as a group.
But as a group. This was
as the first solo Latino
exactly.
rapper. Okay. And becomes like a legendary figure in hip hop.
Exactly.
How devastating was it when you found out about Pun dying?
It was devastating in all aspects. So I'm miserable at Sony now. I go to Hawaii with my wife and my son, and I decide I'm going to resign from Sony. And I FedEx a letter to Tommy Mottola saying I'm resigning. And if he wants the money back, he could have the money back. And I'm going to move to Hawaii, and I'm going to just do whatever. So I'm an athlete, so I'm playing tennis with the tennis pro. And these two big Hawaiian Samoans come running up. Mr. Rifkind, you have an emergency on the mainland. Nobody knows where I am except for my mother.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking somebody died, but I wasn't thinking any in my heart. I'm thinking, somebody in my family. And it's Rich saying, it looks like Pun is dead. I'm like, Rich, either he's dead or not dead, He goes, call Joe. He had a massive, So I called Joe, and he just died as I was calling Joe.
Right, and Pun was 600 pounds at this point.
Yeah, I think so.
Like, I remember Rich Isaacson telling me, and I heard this from Cuban Link and some other people, is that
Pun was gaining weight, right in your baby, at Sony Studios, with a bed inside the studio, with a mic by the bed, because it got to that point that he got too many yes men around him, man. Everything he would say, they'll do. When I first came in there and I seen that, I was like, yo, my nigga, what are you doing? This shit look like your bedroom.
So with me being so depressed being at Sony, and then him passing, I remember, and we just wrote him a tremendous check too. I jump on a plane, I have my staff, my LA staff, meet me at the airport, change whatever, because the pilots had to change within like a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
And then we all just jumped on a different plane and landed. You know, we landed in Teterboro, and I went straight to Joe's house, and the rest is,
Yeah. Sad. But the second album still comes out.
yeah,
With 100%.
100%. It's so hard.
Yeah, it's so hard. Yeah. Great album. The album went multi-platinum.
Yeah, 2
Yeah.
million.
Sad.